In Activity 1, Seeds or Eggs, students examine unidentified brine shrimp eggs and set up an experiment to see if they will grow in salt water or in fresh water. They then observe the growth and development of brine shrimp, then discuss the differences between plants and animals. You will need the following materials from the kit. Activity Sheet 1, magnifiers, brine shrimp eggs, plant or animal chart, droppers, vials with caps, vial holders, and masking tape. You will also need to provide felt tip markers, 1-liter containers, paper towels, non-iodized salt, a large spoon, and spring water. To prepare for Session 1, make a copy of Activity Sheet 1 for each student. Label 2 of the containers fresh water and 2 containers salt water. Place 1 liter of spring water into each container. Make a salt water solution, adding half a vial of non-iodized salt to the salt water containers and stir it well. Set up 2 distribution stations, each with the salt water and a freshwater container and 2 droppers for distributing the water. Have paper towels handy to mop up spills. For each student, place enough brine shrimp eggs to just cover the bottom of a vial and place the caps firmly on the vial. Each team of 2 will need 2 vials with eggs, a vial holder, a magnifier, and 3 pieces of masking tape. Choose an area of the classroom in which to store the vials for a couple of weeks. This should be a spot away from any heat source and out of direct sunlight for the entire day. To begin Session 1, ask students, what is the difference between a seed and an egg? Most students will say that eggs grow into animals, while seeds grow into plants. Then inform the class that you will be giving them some mystery objects, and they will try to discover whether these mystery objects are seeds or eggs. Give a copy of Activity Sheet 1 to each student. Distribute the materials to each team. Guide students to examine the mystery objects through the magnifying lenses, and then describe them in Step 1 on the activity sheet. Students may hold the vials up to the light and tilt them in order to see how the objects move. When everyone has had time to observe the mystery objects, have them place the vials in the vial holder and set them aside. Remind them that these objects are either seeds or eggs, and ask students, can you tell by looking at them which they are? Students will probably say no. Then ask, how might you be able to find out whether these are seeds or eggs? Students may suggest letting the mystery objects grow and seeing what they become. Next, ask students, which kind of water would you find in the ocean? Which kind of water would you find in a stream? Most students will know that ocean water is salty, and water in brooks and streams is not. Explain that fresh water does not have salt in it and comes mostly from lakes and rivers and streams. Salt water, which contains salt and other minerals, comes from the oceans and a few inland lakes. Go on to explain that some living things prefer fresh water and others prefer salt water. Then ask, what do you think you could do to try to grow these mystery objects? Lead students to suggest placing some of the objects in fresh water and some in salt water. Be sure students understand that they need to experiment with both kinds of water. Next, have students label 1 vial fresh, the other vial salt, and their vial holder with their team members' names. Then tell students to carefully remove the caps from the vials and fill one of the vials 3/4 full of salt water and the other vial 3/4 full of fresh water. Have them place the caps back on the vials securely, and then place the labeled vials in their vial holders and set them aside on their desks. Have students predict whether the objects are seeds or eggs. Finally, allow time for students to complete the Session 1 portion of the activity sheets, and then collect them for use in Session 2. Collect the materials and return them to the kit. To conclude Session 1, inform the class that they will observe the objects in their vials every day for the next several days. When students have begun to notice brine shrimp swimming in the salt water, schedule Session 2. To begin Session 2, Give each student their activity sheet and distribute to each team of 2 their vial holder with vials and a magnifier. Encourage them to hold the vials up to the light or against a piece of white paper and look closely for anything new and different in the water. Ask students, do you see plants or animals in the water? How can you tell which they are? Since the brine shrimp are swimming around, most students will probably say that they must be animals. Then ask, were the mystery objects seeds or eggs? Students should see that since they turned into animals, they must have been eggs. Inform students that these animals are called brine shrimp, tiny relatives of the shrimp that people eat. Ask students, did the brine shrimp eggs hatch in the freshwater or in the salt water? They should understand that the brine shrimp eggs hatched only in the salt water. Next, post the plant or animal chart and ask students, how many differences between plants and animals can you think of? As students suggest characteristics of plants and animals, record them on the chart. Finally, have students observe the brine shrimp every day for a week as they grow. As the shrimp get larger, students will be able to see their body parts more clearly. To conclude Session 2, leave the plant or animal chart up. Have students remove and discard the labels from the vials and holders. Empty, wash, air dry, and return the vials and caps to the kit. Replace the vial holders and magnifiers in the kit. For science background, reinforcement activities, curriculum connections, and information about the Delta Science Reader, please consult your DSM Teacher's Guide.